Hey, oh my god. That's not what you were supposed to see. Hi! Hello, everybody. Welcome to my stream. Even though I streamed last week, and my camera's already doing things I don't like it to. Um, Even though I streamed last week, it feels to me like it's been a long time since I streamed because I was just on vacation. I just got back from seeing my family for Thanksgiving. I'm sorry that I'm a little late. I was looking through the book trying to remember where we stopped because I didn't leave a bookmark for myself because I'm not very smart. Um, I don't know exactly where we left off, and I wasn't willing to like go back and look at the VOD while I've already started the stream. So we're just gonna make an educated guess. But let me catch up on the chat because y'all have been talking already. Hi, Shihan. I don't know what that Pog emote is from, but I have a friend whose initials are JPH, and so that's what that makes me think of. Hello, Demonic Overlord. Welcome, the man of the music. The Music Man, yes. Absolutely. My official title. Our call is very important to Mr. Baruch. Yes, yes, your call is very important to us. See what? Nothing. How's the family? They're good. My sister's doing really well. She's waiting on an interview offer for an incredible job opportunity. So we're all very excited about that and hopeful without, you know, counting our chickens before they hatch. But she's seems like she's pretty likely to get the job, which would be really, 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 really nice. Tora the Nopone from Xenoblade 2. Oh, of course. I haven't played Xenoblade 2. I think this has come up before. I've played Xenoblade 1, but that's it. Well, let's get started on Wordle. Let's see. Do we usually do Barry? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking of, Barry. Well, that wasn't very helpful. Is donkey a word? No. Thank you. I will pass on your congratulations to her. Actually, oh, funky. That's much better. Um, Actually, I won't. Well, not yet, because I don't want to remind her about the interview any more than like she already can't think about anything else. I don't need to make that worse. Dumpy. Hey, Dumpy. I mean, yeah. Um. Uh. No. Musty. Hmm. Mummy? Is it three M's? Okay, well, that's a wasted guess. Muggy? That's the only thing I can think of. If it's not this. Alright, it's Muggy. Right in the nick of time. Alright, let's oh, I'm not playing music. That's silly of me. Okay. Here we go. It's time to read a book. Alright, so I don't remember, as I said, quite where we were in the book, but my best guess is that we were about to read about everybody's favorite topic, suffering. I need the inner peace today because the F1 race stressed me the fuck out. I don't know anything about racing, any kind of racing. But here we go. I hope you find great inner peace as we talk about suffering. We should primarily concern ourselves with two things about suffering. One is to minimize it and not feed it. One of the ways we augment suffering is by acting as if suffering is an outrageous surprise instead of a normal part of life. Oh wait, we've already read this, haven't we? We discussed that before? Yeah, I thought so. This sounds familiar. I remember that we did stop at some sort of good break point, because if we had stopped in like the middle of a section, I definitely would have left it bookmarked for myself, right? I think we went on the religious talk during that. We often go on the religious talk when we read from here. Let's see. I don't think we got this far. Are we sure we started the suffering chapter? Alright, I'm just gonna start from the beginning of the suffering chapter, and if it sounds overly familiar, stop me, and we'll move on. If it seems like I've already read it, then I will capitulate, and I will look at my own stream and figure out where we stopped. But I think we're at the beginning of the suffering chapter. Sure. One of the ways we augment suffering is by acting as if suffering is an outrageous surprise instead of a normal part of life. Secondly, we must learn how to suffer well. I will delve into the archives for you, thank you! Secondly, we must learn how to suffer well, to feel it until we exhaust it, to use our experience of it to develop compassion for the suffering of others, to reflect on good things in our lives that persist, even in the midst of something horrible. To notice that even the deepest suffering is interrupted by love, joy, and other things that continue to come along concurrently, and notice that even intense physical and emotional pains vary over time. Twofold suffering. In one's life, suffering is going to occur in different ways, to different degrees, many times. Some suffering is at the accidental or negligent or malicious hands of others. Some suffering is at the accidental, negligent, or malicious hands of one's own conscious or unconscious self. Very much of what we suffer comes to us just by chance. Sometimes the tree branch just happens to break when you are under it, not because you are under it. When we suffer, we sometimes feel it is cosmic commentary on, or even proof of, our unworthiness as a human being, though this is never true. We sometimes feel it is cosmically ordained punishment, which is likewise untrue, and a regrettable religious regression. We sometimes feel it is an undeserved, morally outrageous attack, which sadly it sometimes is. But we are also given to... Is this a battle track? Did I put a battle track in my playlist? It is, isn't it? Why is this in my playlist? What the hell? Anyway. Wait, let me instead of just skipping it, let me actually find it in there and take it out. C'est la but. I don't know if I actually said that right. Probably not. I don't know how to pronounce French. Monaco's theme would go so hard over this chapter. I'm sure it would. Monaco's theme goes well with everything. We sometimes feel it is an undeserved, morally outrageous attack, which sadly it sometimes is, but we are also given to seeing malicious intent where it doesn't exist, or where it is at least driven by something we can understand, even if we cannot approve of the form it has taken. I did stop at the suffering chapter. Okay, great. I think I'm just used to hearing suffering in terms of how we live life. Well, that is certainly possible. And this isn't the first time in this book we've talked about suffering. I'm sure some of you might remember the term dukkha, which is, I don't remember what language it's from, but I would guess Hindi, which is just the concept of all forms of suffering, big and small, which we don't really have a single word for in English. But just everything from stubbing your toe to losing a leg, and beyond, in both directions. What happens when we suffer is twofold. First, we have physical and or emotional pain. A fall, a cut, a broken bone, a small embarrassment, a hurtful or scary disagreement, a lost job, a divorce, a physical attack, a death. All humans through all time have had and are having and will have events like these. The second part of suffering is usually far worse. We habitually attach ourselves to the illusion that we ought to have a life uninterrupted by suffering. It sounds stupidly naive when I say it like that, but what happens when we suffer? We may say, "Who is to blame for this happening to me?" Or, "How dare you do this to me?" Or, "What did I do to deserve this?" Some of us have the opposite reaction and exclaim, "Of course this happened to me," or even, "I deserve this because..." We are often morally indignant that we have been harmed when we have done nothing wrong, or roiled in self-condemnation with this further evidence that we deserve punishment. These are not the only options available. How much less intense is our pain when we start by reminding ourselves that suffering enters everyone's life, justly and unjustly, and no suffering runs on unchanged for the eternity we fear will be the case. What if our thought in the first second, and for the duration of our suffering, is, even horrible suffering varies over time. Even terrible physical pain varies over time. Even grief over a death or other profound loss varies in intensity over time. All pains vary over time, as does our relationship with each long-term pain that we have. Even our deepest heartaches naturally diminish, unless we force them not to. The natural diminishment of pain does not mean we are dishonoring the loss that prompts the pain. That's an important one. This is getting me through my extremely spicy dinner, which is also a form of suffering. That is indeed dukkha. Indeed. Just noticed you got a haircut. Thank you! Glad you think so. Spicy is good suffering, though. Yeah, there is good dukkha. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard there are, like, studies that... I don't remember if this has been displayed in rats or just humans. I think in rats, too. Usually we will actually seek out pleasurable experiences with a tiny bit of pain over purely pleasurable experiences. Something about the contrast that's just really exciting to us. This is the extreme form of suffering mentioned in the book. That's correct. Yes. Spicy food is as bad as life gets. Oh, goodness. I don't want to make light of it. It takes courage to have this thought in one's mind when suffering strikes. It takes clarity of self to know if you are actually having this in mind, or if you are just denying your pain. Denial always causes the pain to leak out in other forms for a longer period of time. Little pain with pleasure makes sense, I suppose. I mean, it's why I like dark chocolate, even though as a kid I was like, why do they even make dark chocolate? To what end? Why would you make food that tastes worse than food that doesn't taste worse? But as an adult, I'm like, yeah, crank it. 72% cacao at least. I also really like ginger beer. I'm not good with spicy stuff, but ginger beer has like a non-spicy bite that I really enjoy. I'm trying to get better at spicy stuff. It takes clarity to know if you are letting yourself off the hook for something you did that really brought on this suffering, or if this instance of suffering has arrived without relation to your feelings, thoughts, and actions. I recommend clarity not because it is easy, but because it is helpful. After peaking, diminishing is pain's natural course. Pain diminishes more quickly when we remember this. That may give us the courage to suffer as deeply as a given loss requires. When our fear of the intensity of suffering causes us to hold it at bay, we carry it at a high intensity for far longer. This increases our suffering many times over. Reminds me very much of, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been, like, if you've ever been in a relationship that you know has to end, but you keep stretching it out because the breakup is going to be more painful than continuing the relationship. I feel like this is kind of like that. It's like you don't want things to get worse, because why would you? But until they do, you're certainly not going to be happier. When a particular pain goes unresolved, we often unconsciously create new circumstances that cause the same sort of pain to happen again. In doing this, we create another opportunity to resolve it, but usually we still don't, so the pain lives in us longer than it must. Suffering naturally begins to diminish after we let it all the way in. Feel the full strength of it, knowing that it won't and actually cannot last forever at this devastating level. You cannot keep suffering from coming in at the front door, but you can ensure the back door is open so it can pass through. I always just cheat at that point. What a great example. Truly inspirational. Thank you for sharing. You won't have amnesia for a tragic loss. It will not be as if it never crossed your path. But let the initial chapter end and move on to each subsequent chapter. They should not all read the same. And he said this already, but I want to restate, because I think that, especially I've noticed for some younger people, like our age and younger. I say our age, even though, like, I think there's probably 15 years of age difference in the chat. But I feel like it's especially common for younger people to think that if you let yourself let go of a pain, you are disrespecting the cause of that pain. And that's not true. Like he says here, you're not going to suddenly forget your loss. Ever. You are much younger than me, Pedro. Yes, I know. At least days. But yeah, similarly, I've met multiple people who say that they're scared to get help for their mental illness because they're worried that their mental illness is what makes them them. And if they get treatment, or especially if they start taking medication, they will, in a sense, die. And whatever takes their place won't be them. That is also not true. You can choose to identify with suffering, but it is never a good choice. It will always make you a worse and more unhappy person. And I can tell you from experience, there's no break in the chain of consciousness when you start to get better. New year, new me is a lie, and we all know it. But that doesn't mean it's meaningless. Like, it can be helpful to frame things as new year, new me. But it's not actually a new you. Never. Never. There is that odd avoidance. I see it a lot with students and even some younger friends. Yeah. And if the pain is deep enough, it can be with older people too. Like, if I don't know, if a 60-year-old loses a child, I can absolutely see how, like, that might lead the 60-year-old to identify with that grief. The grief of outliving your child. It's one of the most profound griefs in the human condition. But you can move on from it without dishonoring your child. We are our experiences, indeed. Feel your feelings, but don't hold on to them. Let them evolve. They should inform decisions, but not make decisions. They are part of what is so, what is true. But they are not the entire truth. Maybe I am an experience. In a way, aren't we all just the experiences of other people? Like anti-solipsism. Solipsism is nothing exists but me, everything else is a figment of my imagination. Because anti-solipsism is, I don't even exist. If there weren't other people to think I'm there, I wouldn't be. If a person exists in a forest and no one is around to hear, does it make a person? Anyway. The next time you feel that you can't go on, recall previous times when you felt that you couldn't go on. Did you get that? There have been previous times when you felt that you couldn't go on, yet you have. Here you are. The feeling is real and intense and unfactual. You can't go on if you have to constantly feel the pain you feel right now. Perhaps that's true. What is definitely true is that you actually, physiologically and psychologically, cannot continue to feel this pain this intensely without change. It's not that you have to stop going on, it's that the pain actually can't go on as it is. Not even grief over the death of a cherished loved one remains the all-consuming anguish it is in the beginning. Philosophy 1.224744871139. I have no idea if you actually put the square root of 2 there, or if you just... Wait, no. It's not the square root of 2. What? Can't remember now. What is 1.22? Is that the square root of 1.5? It is the near number. I can't remember if Yoko Taro... I know he took the square root of something. What's that number squared? Somebody have a calculator? I'm looking it up. 1.22 4744871139 raised to the 2 is 1.5. Okay. I'm not crazy. I was like, I'm almost certain that The square root of 2 starts 1.4. Yeah, it's the square root of 1.5. Because his producer was like, we can't call it Nier 2 because it's not a sequel. We can't really call it 1.5 because it's not a midquel. We can't call it 1 remastered because it's more than that. And Yoko Taro was like, okay, fine, fuck it. We're calling it square root of 1.5. That's true. I'm not making that up. Where were we? You will feel other things. Sometimes you will feel an itch on your nose. Sometimes you will be given such a pleasant surprise that you are distracted from this pain, at least partially, at least for a while. Gradually, unless you insist on keeping it, or insist on not feeling it as much as it requires, the pain will diminish, because that is what pain naturally does. Sometimes you will feel a different pain, or an important accomplishment, hunger or a great meal, loneliness or belonging, disinterest or excitement, even joy. You don't really have a choice. That's how life works. You will not feel as you do now, forever. It will change, and part of the change will be a lessening in intensity. Also, I love this track, and I'm not going to attempt to say it. Life is full of feelings. However large and important this one is, it is one of many, including many more to come, some similar, and many that are different. Feelings are commentary on what is so, or imagined to be so. They are derivative, not primary. They can and often are powerful, but when that power is unhelpful, recall that feelings are not in themselves what is so, but reactions to what is so, or to misperceptions about what is so. You can have other reactions too, and you can do that without denying or hating or fruitlessly trying to ignore your feelings, by recalling that your feelings are just part of, and not all of, what is currently going on. Thank you, Pedro, that's really helpful. But yeah, I love all of the tracks that have this melody in them. It's this one, the one that translates to Robe of Day as opposed to Robe of Night, and then there's the one from the boss fight, which is called. Even if I remembered what it was called, I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. But that one. Yeah. Suffering even happens to people you think have a charmed life. CEOs and billionaires, movie and music celebrities, pretty people, people who create an impenetrable facade that everything is always wonderful for them. Suffering is not evenly or karmically or justly apportioned. You can reduce your suffering by dropping attachment to the notion that justice is a mystical force that is supposed to settle the score. There is no supposed to. Cosmos is not keeping score. Like every other circumstance and feeling, suffering comes and then it changes, unless you cling to it so tightly that it cannot change. Quote, "Suffering is not holding you. You are holding suffering." Buddha. Hope for better, genuinely strive to make yourself better, support others in becoming better, work for appropriate consequences for those who intentionally do wrong, guard against accidents, dismantle social structures that make suffering more likely, but expect past performance to be the best predictor of future performance. The past performance is that everyone experiences suffering. Some get a little, some get a lot, and there is no correlation between suffering or joy and what would be fair. It may seem paradoxical to say we should expect the future to resemble the past when we have already emphasized impermanence, the ever-presence of change. But expecting that things will change while also expecting patterns of the past to persist is not actually contradictory. We are, as ever, merely being imprecise. The future will resemble the past. but it will not replicate it exactly. Sometimes the brightest people are the ones hiding their suffering. Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to the idea that some of the people who smile all the time are just trying to make sure nobody else feels like they do. There are definitely people like that. There are definitely people like that. If everything changed at every moment, there would be uninterrupted chaos, and that is not what we observe, although it is sometimes what we feel. If nothing ever changed, well, that is also not what we observe, although it is sometimes what we feel. Instead of saying we should expect change or expect repetition, it might be better to say that we should be unsurprised by change and unsurprised by repetition. We should not be morally indignant about either change or repetition, nor should we read cosmic messages into either of them. They are both just things that happen, sometimes for reasons we perceive, and sometimes for no more reason than the anonymous complexity of the world. Both anonymous and personal forces sometimes cause suffering. These are the same forces that sometimes cause delight. When you are suffering, think, everybody sometimes suffers. This is one of my times. It might not be fair, but suffering is not fair, so no surprise there. What can you expect from something that cannot be predicted more precisely than it will happen sometimes? It often happens when we think it shouldn't, and it sometimes happens. Starting over. It often happens when we think it shouldn't, and it sometimes doesn't happen when we think it is inevitable or even right. The overlay of suffering about suffering typically evokes far more misery than the original injury. While you cannot stop all suffering, you can stop suffering about suffering. Suffering once is enough. When suffering comes, feel it, and the feeling will eventually leave, or at least become variable in its hold on you. Quote, "Do not let us build a second story on top of our sorrow by being sorry for our sorrow." Marcus Aurelius. In the second arrow parable, Buddha tells us that the first arrow is an inescapable part of life, something we cannot control. But the second arrow is how we respond to the first arrow, which we can control. The first arrow might be a broken bone or a broken heart. The second arrow is when we augment our pain with "why me" or "of course me" or other pain-amplifying narration. Everyone's life includes both accidental and intentionally imposed suffering. Everyone sometimes suffers unjustly. Everyone sometimes earns their suffering. It's not a well-designed system. It's simply how human life actually works. Hi, and Revenant, meow to you too. The notion that life is supposed to be ideal is the meta-illusion we have to abandon. There is no supposed to. Life is how life is. Displacing illusion, delusion, ridiculous expectations with accurate perceptions of what is actually so is the path to a more peaceful state of mind. Hoot and woof, man, we've got a whole menagerie in here. That's exciting. I'm allergic to a lot of animals, though. Maybe not that exciting. Remember that suffering is normal. Remembering that suffering is normal can take a lot of the suffering out of suffering. Suffering once is enough. Don't double it. Quote, "If we're disappointed with something, instead of getting upset, we recognize how this is the nature of things, and don't bother suffering about it." I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this name, I'm just going to try to make the camera focus on it. Nope, that's not working. Hello? That's not working. Hello? What if I turn the camera off and on again? Hold on. Okay, that was terrible. Deactivate. Activate. Alright, I'll pretend I know how to read this name then, I guess. Are you allergic to your own fans? If you're cats, yeah. Allergies are also a form of suffering? Tell me about it. 2 blurry B's. Yes, there are 2 B's. Buddhadasa Bhikkhu is my best attempt. Obviously, not the right accent, but I did my best. Note that the above quote does not say we shouldn't be disappointed, just not to bother to suffer about our suffering. We can be disappointed, and we can choose to act differently in the future to reduce the chances of being similarly disappointed again. And that's enough. Suffering more than that is extra, or more to the point, optional. Suffering the first arrow is enough. Second arrow suffering is gratuitous. Learn to opt out of optional suffering. Your attempt is enough. I guess that's the moral, isn't it? I should not suffer about the suffering I cause people when I try to speak their native tongue. You can try to pronounce it in an accent, but that might not end up how you want. It almost certainly would be worse. Yes, I agree. Quote, "The wise man accepts his pain, endures it, but does not add to it." Marcus Aurelius. Fearful anticipation of suffering creates additional suffering. Quote, A man who fears suffering is already suffering from what he fears. Montaigne. A way this is sometimes expressed is, pain is certain, suffering is optional. How might we unstring the bow that shoots the second arrow? I hope I have already made the case that this bow is strung with expectations that are not rooted in what is so. How does one radically reduce their wrong expectations? This brings us back to an earlier part of this book. We constantly operate with a great many illusions as if they are real and not illusions at all. This is necessary because reality is much too complex to be fully apprehended, let alone kept in mind. We have to simplify it, and we are good enough at that our simplifications serve us well a lot of the time. When we are in pain, be it small or large, one of the first questions we should ask is, what generally useful illusion of mine has failed to be useful in this case? Was it the illusion that the universe is supposed to be fair or safe? Was it the illusion that Pat was a good and honest person rather than a scheming liar? Was it the illusion that because I am strong, I won't ever have a broken bone? Was it the illusion that because I am emotionally strong, I won't ever have a broken heart? If something heartbreaking happens, it's terribly sad, and you must feel it. Please feel your pain fully. Please do not add to that the additional suffering that comes from believing you were supposed to be immune from such things occurring. It's already terrible. Grieve it well to help it diminish. Don't enlarge it. Anticipating reduced suffering. Oh, damn, that Marcus Aurelius from Gladiator really had many things to say. Yeah, for a fictional character, he had a lot of wise wisdoms. Definitely a fictional character from Gladiator. Let's take a very mundane example of suffering on a small but familiar scale. Getting an injection. It hurts. The pain comes on suddenly and is intense, so it activates our startle and fear reflexes. Unless the doctor's really good. Have you guys ever gotten a painless injection? I have at times, only like for pretty shallow ones, but I have received injections without knowing they had started. Some technicians are really good. You said injection and my first thought was BBL. What's BBL? I don't know what that is. If from the moment you first feel the pain you started counting off seconds, 1 1000, 2 1000, you would find that in many cases, Injections are done in less than 1 second, rarely last more than 3, and the pain stops almost as suddenly as it starts. You can control whether the fear suddenly subsides as well. You can control whether the fear suddenly subsides as well, or if it drags on longer than necessary. You may be sore later, but you won't be in pain. That's a steep reduction, and reducing is what continues. The original pain doesn't. Brazilian butt lift. Got it. Only nurses and technicians have been able to do that for me painlessly. Agreed, yeah, You're right, I've never had a doctor give me a painless injection. But I've had nurses, technicians, and once or twice a pharmacist give me painless injections. Yeah, as usual, the doctors are not actually as good with the hands-on stuff as they are with the diagnosing stuff, and sometimes they're worse at that too. A generation ago, smallpox, tuberculosis, and other vaccines left a lifelong scar. The scar stayed forever, but the pain went away in almost no time at all, and the soreness lasted no more than a few days. If you break your leg and it doesn't heal well, you may be affected for the rest of your life, but the original pain will not persist. Our larger pains work like that. Some impact remains and shapes us in some way, but the initial pain lessens. Kudos to professionals, indeed. When we have pain, whether physical or emotional, we want it to stop right now. One way to think about it is that it will stop right now, for some future instance of right now. That is, there will be a moment in time when it goes from overwhelming to manageable, and another when it goes from manageable to milder or episodic. Most of the pains we have, from stubbed toes to stomach aches and many big pains, literally fade to nothing and are forgotten. Obviously, some pains, such as the death of a loved one, never cease entirely and shouldn't. But even the pain of tragic losses such as this reduce over time, and that is not a dishonoring of the person you have lost or a negative comment on your character. Rather, it is the normal and good adaptation to life's losses that a loved one would want you to have. We cannot short-circuit deep emotional or physical pain into instant non-existence. The closest we get to that is to deny it or stuff it, and thereby drive it underground. This ensures it will come out in other ways, last many times longer, and ultimately create more damage and limitation. Quote, "Accepting the emotion you're feeling gives the power back to you. To avoid it is to amplify, and to acknowledge is to release." J. Mike Fields. I had to get my toe numbed on 2 separate occasions, and the first guy left a huge bruise and it hurt. Yikes. Second doctor was so gentle, I felt nothing and it went smooth. It's almost like technique matters. It's almost like you can be good at medical procedures. Toes are hard to apply anesthetic. I would assume that it's hard to do anything with toes, really. Our natural response is to feel deep pains like grief as if they will never end or vary, and that we cannot bear it. But the natural progression is that every kind of pain changes over time. The fact is, there will be a moment when it is less intense, and over time there will be longer intervals during which it is less intense. This is inevitable, good, natural, and not wrong. Long-term emotional and chronic physical pain both change over time, as does our relationship to them. Giving pain its full expression is the most efficient path to living a good life beyond that pain. Feel your pain fully, exhaust it. Giving it full expression scares us because we imagine the full strength of it will so overwhelm us that we will not know how to continue existing. But giving it full expression will not kill you. It will actually enable you to live more fully again. In so doing, it will honor everything that you still have, and still have to gain, everything you still are, and still have to give others. It will be what anyone who loves you would want for you. Will you love yourself enough to feel your pain so intensely that its intensity lessens? Spend a minute feeling like you can't go on another minute, and then notice you just have. Stream is hiccuping a lot. Oh no. Sorry to hear that. Learning not... Trying VPN. Hell yeah. Sometimes that makes it easier for some reason, even though that doesn't make sense to me. Learning not to suffer more than necessary. Once we learn to be afraid of something, we have to actively learn to not be afraid of it. Recent research suggests that we have to use the newest and smartest part of our brain to overcome a pattern programmed into the oldest, least evolved part of our brain. Roughly speaking, when we learn that something hurts us or endangers us, and we become anxious or fearful about it, our amygdala, our very old and not very bright center of emotional processing, has committed a set of neurons to ensuring we preserve that discomfort as a part of our warning system. As best we can tell, those neurons don't ever lose the effect of that training. What happens if we get new data that says that thing is not so scary after all? Or it was then, but isn't now? Or it is only dangerous in limited contexts? The neocortex, a much more recent development that has limited control over the older parts, has to actively train other neurons to overpower the ones committed to that fear. Meanwhile, the amygdala is trying to get us to still take that old fear seriously. This helps us understand why learning to let go of a past pain or learned fear is such hard work. It is actually difficult in the physiochemical mechanism of emotion to let the past be past, to get over traumatic experiences, or to change any behavior associated with significant emotional charge of any kind, especially the strongly negative kind. We must be simultaneously persistent and patient, seeking release from fear, pain, anger, and constraint, while being compassionate with ourselves about how hard it is to do that. We disserve ourselves if we expect healing to mean it's as if the bad thing never happened. Yet we disserve ourselves if we don't reduce the bad thing's strength. Quote, "Your baggage may not be your fault, but your healing is your responsibility." Denise Frohman. The same dynamic can also be observed in cases of too much trust. People who keep trusting others despite signs of untrustworthiness or even flagrantly bad behavior might best be understood as failing to develop sufficient stimulation to overpower earlier programming that is too trusting, also in the amygdala. In short, acquiring an initial emotional response to any given stimulus is a lot easier than reprogramming our response to the same stimulus later. This clearly aligns well with, and may even partially explain, the tenacity of our illusions of permanence. More generally, it might go a long way to explain the persistence of the many counterproductive behaviors that attend each of our lives. From a functional rather than physiological perspective, therapists often say that problematic behaviors were typically adaptive, or at least easy to understand, in some original context, but have persisted and subsequently reassert themselves in places where they don't belong. It might help your neocortex override your amygdala if you say to yourself that the fear, anxiety, anger, misplaced trust, or other emotion that you feel is just your older, more primitive reptilian brain talking, and you are so much more than that. Footnote. What I am attributing here to the amygdala and neocortex is based on preliminary research that might or might not be supported in subsequent studies. If it is true, it explains a lot. If it turns out not to be true, make it into a story about a too fearful or too trusting tortoise and a wise and caring elephant, and you will still have a powerful parable for our lived experience. He doesn't explicitly say this here, but what he is saying, and what I think is really important, is that it doesn't matter if it really is amygdala versus neocortex. What matters is that it is a compelling and useful story about suffering that helps us end our suffering. And so it's worthwhile. Not in a medical journal, but for the common person. One tactic is to occupy your amygdala with a different, strong, and basic emotion. For example, instead of fear, the feeling of being loved and protected. Even if right now that can only come from you, can help you move away from the unhelpful emotion. See your obsessively stuck amygdala as a small child in need of comfort and guidance. Offer it the protection, reassurance, and teaching that a loving adult would provide if one were present. If you are old enough to be reading this book, you are both that child and that adult already. Here is one script you might adapt for use. Hello, my anger, jealousy, betrayal, loss, fear, physical pain, despair, misplaced trust, etc. I know you are there. I am here with you too. I am not here to fight you or push you away. I am here to be with you. I will embrace you, protect you, and take good care of you. Only then will the counterproductive feeling be likely to truly reduce and not just be hidden away again. Now, as all times, is a good time to recommend that anybody who has not played the game Celeste play the game Celeste. I call the following approach the three perspectives technique. Imagine a young child who is upset about something that, from an adult perspective, is not that big of a deal. A broken toy that is easily fixed, for example. Should we chastise the child for fussing over nothing, or be impatient or induce shame, or try to distract them entirely, or console them too quickly so that learning to process a loss is interrupted? Hopefully we immediately agree that we should not do any of those things, but let's get into some details about why. The child does not know that the broken toy can be easily fixed, so they are suffering a permanent loss. As an adult, it may be just a toy to you, something of little consequence. To the child, it is a tool for entering an imaginative space, a source of fun and enjoyment, something they rely on frequently. It is consistently and predictably an inherently unsafe world, and something quite like having a friend. It is consistency and predictability in an inherently unsafe world, and something quite like having a friend. That makes more sense when I read the words that are there. In the child's limited experience of life, this might be the biggest loss they have had to learn from so far. Or despite their young age, it might be a remainder of some horrendous loss they have already suffered. The child is new at learning to handle loss, and this is a vital learning opportunity not to be suppressed or squandered. You can help the child by first acknowledging their pain as they are already feeling it. It may take a moment or many minutes for them to feel seen, heard, understood, not alone. This by itself will set them on the path to better coping. Quote, "One of the most important things you can do on this earth is to let people know they are not alone." Shannon Alder. Once they know you are in it with them, not judging them, not likely to be the source of another challenge, not a person who will make them feel more alone, then you can voice your observation that the child's initial emotion is lessening. So it's a good time to see if the initial feeling is the whole story or just the first part of the story, which it always is. What can happen next is a key question to ask the child. Keep the damaged item, replace the item, accept the loss and enjoy other good things that are still available to us, and so on. I wanted to say something. What did that make me want to say? What did that make me want to say? Oh yeah, this is how I know I need not to have kids. Is I just don't have the patience for this. I'm so. This sounds bad. I'm not blaming children for this. I recognize this as a statement about myself. I'm so irritated by most things that children do. And I don't at all trust myself that even if it were my own child, I don't trust that I would always, or even usually, have the presence of mind to be like, hold on, this situation is much different for them than it is for me. I'm just not that zen. Intellectually, I would want to be the best parent for my child I could be, and I am not that person. Therefore, I should not be a parent. And I feel like there's power in embracing that. I get it, children can be annoying, but like you said, it's not something everyone should do. Yeah, I mean, just recently I was with I just recently had dinner with family friends who have 2 young girls. I think they're like 3 and 4, and they were wonderful. They were great. But they had far more energy than me, and they were very imaginative, which I like to think I have a pretty good imagination too, but you know, in the adult way. And I'm not good at playing with kids. I'm not good at buying into their imaginary realms, and I can't be what they want, if that makes sense. I'm not a good playmate for kids. So I just kind of stand there and I'm like, oh, why don't you go find somebody who can give you what you're looking for? And it's like, I wish the best for them. I think they're great. I just also don't want anything to do with them. Maybe all of these possible solutions are things you could have suggested in the first instant, but when said in the first instant, they are felt as attacks. Offered too soon, they are instructions to deny the pain and move on as if one's initial response is pathological instead of normal. It is only after gaining alignment on the dominant feeling that we are ready to consider other feelings and next steps. Like, that's a great example. If a child broke a toy and I knew there was an easy, immediate fix, I would my gut response would be just to fix it and be like, no, look, it's fine. And maybe my dad's right that that's actually not the best approach. Do they seem drawn to you anyways somehow? Sometimes. In this particular case, no, they were pretty happy to just play with each other and their mom and dad. They were very friendly with me, but I was not very interesting, and so they moved on. It's not like, you know how pets always find the people who aren't allergic to them because they're the only people in the room not smothering them? This was not like that. Because it's really hard to smother children. They really like attention. Sometimes even just standing there and being predictable is all they really need. That's true. I'm definitely predictable. I'm consistently uninteresting to children. And there's solidarity in that. I have had younger cousins. They're adults now, but oh god. Anyway, when they were young kids, they were very excited to be around me, and I was just constantly uncomfortable, just like, oh, you sure want to watch that video that you've already shown me 3 times a lot, huh? Sure want to hear that song we've already listened to on repeat again, huh? Children cannot appreciate the finer things in life, like existential video games. So true. I've said this before, but I think it's funny. There's a theory, I don't think it's true, but okay, I should say there's a hypothesis. No, that makes it sound so scientific. There's a rumor that children might not actually be unable to appreciate finer, more nuanced, bitter things, and maybe they just have much more sensitive palates than we do, and so things that we consider to be like nuanced and interesting and just the right amount of bad are overwhelmingly bad to children because they can taste and experience these things better than adults can. I don't think that's true. I think that it's much more likely that children are just not able to process complex, nuanced things in a way that results in a positive conclusion and experience. I think that's much more likely. But it is funny to me to think about kids just being like, no, you're actually just wrong. Like, this does taste bad. And you just can't tell because you're old. Adults are just jaded and veer off bad stuff. And blackjack. What's like blackjack? Kids can't taste blackjack? I guess that's true, because I can't taste blackjack either, so I don't remember an age where I could taste blackjack. Maybe the loss really is permanent and significant. Maybe the loss is deep and will hurt for a long time. In that case, we have to shift to recalling, or learning for the first time, that catastrophic losses require more time in the just feel it stage. But even big losses eventually soften, and feeling less pain does not dishonor the loss. Oh, blackjack is one of the finer things in life. Got it. Any path you end up on that resembles the above brief illustration is of pragmatic value in helping that child deal with that event, and teaching that child how to guide themselves with gradually increasing independence in future painful events. They can learn this pattern of not fighting the pain, recognizing one is not alone. Details aside, none of us will be the first person in human history to feel any particular kind of pain. Only after settling down a bit, looking for next steps. Accepting that we might not see a solution even when there is one or more, that sometimes the only solution is knowing that how we relate to a given event will change over time, that even the pain of gigantic losses becomes less intense and less frequently present. You know that this child might be an actual child, or yourself, or any other adult. As pain brings out the dependent child in all of us, the same pattern works with adults as well. For brevity, I have been more abstract in this discussion than you will have to be with a child, or even with an adult who is in pain. As with any communication, especially sensitive communications, you must use your judgment to tune it to the person and the moment. What Buddha calls skillful means of teaching. Keep forgetting to announce the ad breaks. That's okay, you don't have to. I'm kind of partially aware of them. And I did find that I was able to reduce the frequency. So the last month or so, it's been hopefully more manageable. For the longest time, I never wanted to eat my onion or mushrooms or insert veggies greens. When I grew up, turned out that almost all of these were triggering my IBS infallibly to a degree. Which only got worse the older I got, but I had already felt that for a long time already, so when I was a kid, I resisted eating the things that I felt didn't do me good, but I had to anyway. I had a very similar experience growing up. As some of you are aware, I'm actually allergic to all plant matter, unless it has been cooked or processed in some way that breaks a really fragile protein that I'm allergic to. And although it has gotten worse as I've gotten older, my parents just didn't believe me because most people haven't, even though it's not all that uncommon. It's called oral allergy syndrome. My parents hadn't heard of it, and most people haven't heard of it. And so I ended up having to eat things I was allergic to a lot as a kid because my parents just I mean, like, how many kids make up reasons they can't eat salad? A lot. And I didn't lie a lot as a kid, but still, it was just so difficult to believe what I was saying that they didn't. And if my allergy was as bad today as it was back then, I would not have been able to push through, but I did. And now I'm really picky as an adult, because anytime I see food I'm not used to eating, I'm just like, that could hurt me though. I avoided that when I was a kid, so I have to avoid it now, because that could hurt me. It's hard for kids to advocate for themselves, yeah. To this day, I can't eat beef. Even though that has nothing to do with plant matter, obviously. But my mom didn't eat beef, doesn't eat? When I was growing up, my mom didn't eat beef. And so I just never did. And since I never got used to eating it, I can't now. I've tried multiple times as an adult to... I mean, I've had really good beef, like high quality steak. I remember having tri-tip at a fondue restaurant, like a nice fondue restaurant. I've had good beef. And it tastes great, but the whole time I'm chewing it, I'm just like, oh my god, there's beef. Oh my god, there's beef. Oh my god, I don't eat beef. I shouldn't have beef. Why is there beef? It's psychological torture, so I just don't eat beef. My take, maybe, just maybe, some of these kids are trying to convey something that they don't have the necessary vocabulary for. And the way that they are forced to do it anyway, in essence, reductively, becomes generational trauma. Yeah, there's truth to that. You got beef with the beef? I got beef with the beef. I'm a vegetarian and I ain't fucking scared of him. She wants to touch me, whoa. I'm sorry. Where were we? What that was just now is, since we're talking about skillful handling of suffering, I wanted to give you some suffering to practice with. Anger and shame. Anger and shame may be induced for bad reasons, and they may lead to bad results, but they can also be healthy signals that something important is wrong. This can lead to healthy changes. How can we investigate what is wrong, maybe not the thing that provoked our anger or shame, and then correct that situation? Maybe we need to try to stop someone's bad behavior, reduce their influence on us, correct our own behavior, or continue healing from a traumatic past. Anger. If a person or situation makes you angry, try to understand the reason for your anger. Are you angry because there is a pro-Nazi march in town? Are you angry because someone physically attacked someone else? Are you angry because institutionalized bias has just struck again and people are denying it? These are all good reasons to be angry, and unfortunately, there are infinitely many more. Quote, "He who is not angry when there is just cause for anger is immoral." Why? Because anger looks to the good of justice. And if you can live amid injustice without anger, you are immoral as well as unjust. Thomas Aquinas. A large part of our cultural problem with anger is that we give little guidance on how to use it as motivation to make positive changes, and not just lash out. It's natural that we fear someone else's anger when it is or might be directed at us or someone or something that we value, or even if it's undirected. Anger is scary because it is, in fact, dangerous. We recognize this intuitively. We need to work on the part where something good comes from anger, like counter-protests and legal actions, like providing protection, like dismantling institutional bias, like creating internal and external conditions that help us behave in ways more aligned with our highest values than with our lowest impulses and unconscious triggers. Disperse your anger when it is based on poor expectations or you cannot use it productively. When you can, channel anger to productively challenge wrongdoing or improve problematic conditions. Use as much equanimity as you can muster under duress to bring your best thinking and most skillful behavior to bear. I do still stand with kids should try out things. Oh, absolutely they should, yeah. Because, I mean, again, if I had tried beef as a kid, I would probably eat it now. Which, maybe that wouldn't be a good thing. But given how restrictive my diet is, it's hard for me to ever say that further restricting it is a bad thing. I know red meat isn't really good for you, but sometimes I don't want to eat chicken, Sometimes I've just had too much chicken. I know that there's other kinds of meat, but I'm not really fond of fish. I wasn't raised on fish either. And I don't know why. I should have been. But I don't really eat fish, and since I wasn't raised eating anything with 4 legs, now I don't want to eat anything with 4 legs because I just think that in general they're too smart. I don't have anything against people who do. I don't know, it's complicated, isn't it? There's a lot of arguments for like the water consumption used in beef and inhumane conditions, and yes, they are intelligent. But I don't really know where I'm going with this, actually. I was tempted to go in the direction of like, hey, eat whatever you want. I'm just talking about like my own biases, but when I really think about it, maybe we shouldn't just eat whatever we want. I do think that, to some degree, people who have the option of being vegan should at least consider it. I do think that. That is from... Is it called Don't Trust a Hoe by 303? Dumb. Basically, all animal agriculture is very bad for the environment, though, to be fair. Yes, yeah. So, I don't mean to say, like, I'm not saying 4-legged animals are bad to eat and everything else is okay. I'm just saying that that's how I eat, because various stupid incidental reasons that have strongly biased me from childhood. But yeah, like I said, I think that if you have the option of being vegan, you should consider it. Because I feel like just blindly eating whatever you feel like without ever thinking about what your diet depends on in the world at large, it's just a missed opportunity to make some change for the better. I consider it, like, some people might disagree, but I consider it okay that I continue to eat chicken because, well, for one, chickens are very stupid. And they certainly deserve better than they get in agriculture. And the environmental impact of raising chickens for meat is certainly something to be considered as well. But again, my diet is already so restricted. If I didn't eat chicken, my only source of protein would be like tofu. And, not a huge fan of tofu. Just, there are many times when I would like to get protein in a different way. Missed what you commented on fish eating, but basically haven't eaten much of it. Yeah, I just wasn't raised eating fish. I don't know why. My mom just didn't cook it. So I didn't eat it until I was like a teenager, and then I was like, this is new. I'm scared of it. Anyway. Shame! I remember when my daughter was very young and feeling a lot of shame about something she had done. Wait, really? I don't remember that. She saw her bad behavior as an indication that she was a bad person. and was very disappointed and disturbed by this discovery. Oh! I misread that. I thought he was saying he felt a lot of shame about something my sister did. He's saying she felt a lot of shame about something my sister did. That sounds like her. Now I follow. It all depends on how you were raised, like you were saying. If you have the means to change something, then by all means try. But for those who lack funds or availability, then eat what you can. Yeah, I agree. Too bad eating a lot of tofu triggers my stomach too. With me, I also eat a fair amount of meat because so many plant-based protein sources are unavailable for me, so that's a good reason to eat meat. Else I would gladly eat mostly plant-based stuff. Yeah, if I could happily, nutritiously eat a totally plant-based diet, I absolutely would. I would in a heartbeat. Beans are amazing protein, yeah, that's true. Beans are just good for you in general. Like, I understand that, as in Revenant has mentioned, like, many people do have different digestive concerns, and sometimes that does involve beans, but if you can eat a lot of beans, you really should. They're so good for you. I don't know why it is that beans have all the things a human needs, but they kind of do. Any kind. They're stupid good for you. I remember when my daughter was very young and feeling a lot of shame about something she had done. She saw her bad behavior as an indication that she was a bad person, and was very disappointed and disturbed by this discovery. I explained to her that even good people sometimes make the mistake of doing something bad. The difference between bad people and good people is that bad people do a lot of bad and don't seem much bothered by it. But good people like her feel bad when they do bad, and that makes them do better next time. Without your mistakes, you would be without what you learned from them. Mistakes are like bills. Make sure you get what you paid for. Quote, "One day, the mountain that is in front of you will be so far behind you, it will barely be visible in the distance. But the person you become in learning to get over it, that will stay with you forever. And that is the point of the mountain." Brianna Wiest. Shame that destroys is bad. Shame that stimulates appropriate self-correction is both good and necessary. Regarding fish, I'm very conflicted after I learned how much of the ocean's biomass that humanity has basically scooped out of the oceans. It made me react with nausea. Oh, cool! Great! Glad to hear it. And of course, there's always, like, fish is good for you, fish is bad for you, fish has mercury, fish has omega acids, like, fish is both good and bad for you. I'm lucky in that my diet isn't very restricted, but for me, animal rights is a very important cause, so if tofu was the only source of protein I could get, it would personally be worth that sacrifice, knowing how birds and other farm animals are treated, you know. That completely, yeah, that's absolutely justified in my opinion as well. Because, yeah, it is horrendous. There is no animal raised for meat that is treated well. Okay, well, that's an overstatement, but not by much. Grief. Nothing lasts forever, not the people we love, nor the intensity of the grief we feel when they die. As discussed in more general terms above, the only effective way to deal with any uncomfortable feeling is to feel it. Until you let it run its full course, you will be at its mercy. We think we cannot survive feeling the depth of our agony, so we don't allow ourselves to feel all of it, which is why it sticks around for so long. It's not done. You can survive its full force, and you will spend less time with it once you do. The loss will never be no big deal. You will never dishonor the person you lost by not caring that they are gone. You will always care, always prefer that they were still alive and well. But you are not honoring them or living as they would want you to if you stay stuck in unchanged grief forever. They would want you to still love them, which you do. They would want you to miss them, which you do. They would want you to get on with life and be happy even though they're gone. Will you? Quote, grief, I've learned, is really just love. It's all the love you want to give, but cannot. All of that unspent love gathers in the corners of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and in the hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. Jamie Anderson. You don't get your amputated limb back. You don't get your deceased loved one back. But you also don't spend every day for the rest of your life with entirely unchanged feelings. You will never feel happy for the loss, but you will be happy about other things and cry about other things. This loss will not be the end of you that it can feel like in the initial stages. It will honor rather than dishonor a deceased loved one when you have the happiness they would want for you if they were still around. Your grief honors your loss of them. Your happiness honors what they would want for you. Your grief and your happiness both respect who they were. Sometimes the person who is gone is an earlier version of yourself. The you before the accident. The you before the divorce. The you before the death of a loved one. The you before the financial ruin. Same deal. Even though you have suffered a real loss, a healthy love of self should lead to intense enough grieving that you do not remain stuck in grieving. Will you do it? It was a good quote, wasn't it? That Jamie Anderson one? Yeah, that one has stuck with me for a long time. The idea that grief is love with no place to go. Yeah, I like that. Second-hand grief. If someone you love suffers, you empathetically feel for them. You imagine or witness their pain and want to comfort them. You relate to their pain out of your own past and current experiences. Sometimes a loved one's loss is so great that in addition to having empathy for their loss, you also have a loss of your own. This is often first expressed in the form of questions. How could this happen to my loved one? What kind of a world is this that we are living in? How could I have protected them? What do I do now? If some devastating illness, accident, or attack occurred and your spouse, child, parent, or other loved one died, it would be easy to see that even though the impact on them exceeded the impact on you, you have suffered a loss, need to grieve, and require and deserve additional care. A loved one's suffering does not have to be fatal for this dynamic to come into play. That's an important one too. Just because somebody you love is in worse pain than you doesn't mean that you don't need support. Just means that you might need a little less. Again, I feel like the answer to every question in life is, have you considered different degrees of it? Is usually thinking about things categorically is artificial and unhelpful. Usually it's like, yeah, this is a good idea in both cases, but it's a better idea in this one. Or it's more important in this one, but still important in the other one. There's room for nuance in life. By which I mean, most of life is nuance. And we're just really bad at acknowledging that. Upsetting though it may be, imagine that your loved one has been in a terrible accident in which they lost an arm or a leg or became paralyzed, or perhaps they were physically attacked and harmed. In all of these cases, there is psychological damage for them alongside whatever happened physically. In such scenarios, your loved one has suffered a great loss. Certainly your heart aches for them, but note that you have suffered a loss too. This kind of loss is secondary to theirs, but it's not nothing, and it is rarely acknowledged. That makes it hard to heal. The world is such a dangerous place that to cope, we live with an illusion that it is much safer than it really is. That's true. I certainly operate under the idea that the world is safer than it actually is, because I would be paralyzed if I didn't. Sadly, people don't like nuance. I feel like I was going to say the human brain doesn't like nuance, but I don't think that's true. I think the animal brain doesn't like nuance, and the human brain is trying desperately to assert itself. If your spouse has been paralyzed or lost a limb, has developed a disabling or fatal disease, or has been deeply psychologically damaged, their loss exceeds yours, but your loss is not tiny. In addition to the pain you have for them, you have lost some aspects of the life you otherwise would have had together. Pragmatically, it might also be the case that the financial, physical, and emotional load on you has significantly increased. I could give many more examples and still not hit one that exactly resonates for you, but I hope that just those given suffice to highlight the fact that secondhand grief can be quite severe. Without competing with the more direct trauma experienced by your loved one, please ensure that you also respect and grieve the pain that arises in you when a loved one is hurt. Major illnesses and injuries. Congenital defects, crippling arthritis, degenerative nerve disorders, paralysis, amputation, depression. Just listing the names of all the ways in which we can be devastated and saying nothing about them would fill a book. Many of them never get better. Many of them are guaranteed to only get worse. Some are terrifyingly quick. Some are terrifyingly slow. Some abate just long enough for you to think you might have seen the last of it, only to smack you down again. Some have the mind itself as the primary site or as a secondary site of difficulty, the very tool we would use to make the best of whatever unwanted circumstances afflict us. In these cases, I believe one must begin with grieving your loss of well-being, in much the same way as one grieves the death of a loved one. It is the death of a former self, even if it is just the death of the illusion of and desire for what might have been. It's a tragic loss. Treat it as such. After acknowledging your very real loss and grieving it with the intensity it deserves, then you can focus on the task of finding your way to extracting as much goodness and richness as possible from the life you still have. Of course, this is not an absolute sequencing, but a sequencing of emphasis. Grieving comes in waves, and the rest of life does not politely wait until grieving is done. It carries on in parallel. When dealing with serious or chronic problems, we can and should accomplish what we can to reduce suffering. Be open enough to seek help from family and friends. Be sensible enough to seek help from professionals. Be self-responsible enough to do your own research, weigh input from others, and retain ownership of the decisions and actions that are natively yours. Equanimity about non-equanimity. It is often the case that the frequency or intensity of negative experiences puts equanimity out of reach. In fact, we begin many journeys with this as the starting point. This is not a failure to respond with equanimity. This is the typical, ordinary human response. Don't condemn yourself for being human. Our focus on equanimity in Zen is because of how much we need it, not because of how much of it we have. Let's say that you have experienced one serious stressor after another for a significant stretch without much of a break. This happens to all of us from time to time. In such cases, equanimity is unlikely to spontaneously spring forth. Nurture your equanimity, but don't add to your misery by condemning yourself for not having an abundance of equanimity in the first moment of handling a difficult challenge. In an interview, the actor Michael Caine spoke about a rehearsal in which he was meant to enter a room through a door, but a chair had been accidentally thrown against it in a preceding fight scene. He didn't know how to proceed, so he stood still and asked the director what to do. The director told him to use the difficulty. He replied that he didn't know what the director meant, and the director said, "If it's a comedy, fall over it, and if it's a drama, pick it up and smash it." Kane says he took that as a lesson into his real life and taught it to his children as well. He says if you use the difficulty 1/4 of 1% to your advantage, you are ahead of where you'd be if you either ignored it or let it stop you. In the comedic and dramatic times of your life, when something unplanned occurs, use the difficulty. That is how equanimity is lived out loud. That's like an evolved form of when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, isn't it? Like, when life throws shit at you, do what you can with it. It doesn't mean that you're better off than if nothing had happened, but you are better off than if you don't try to do something with it. Roll with the punches, yeah. I like Michael Caine a lot. I think he's an incredibly kind and wise person. The primacy of expectations. Imagine a great chess tournament to be played by the two very strongest opponents in the world. They are extremely well matched and easily ahead of all other contenders. Obviously an artificial situation, but let's go on. Insert whatever expression. Already we have a sense of the drama that will attend this spectacle, but oddly enough, counterintuitively, the outcome of the match is not the stuff of which drama is made. We have already stipulated that they are evenly matched top players. What that actually literally means is that the odds of either one of them winning are 50-50. So, especially over the trivially few games comprising a tournament, the outcome has no meaning whatsoever. The expectations and the lived experience in this situation are untethered from the reality of it. We attend to it as if the fate of the world, or at least the chess world, hangs in the balance. But the outcome of just a few games is literally meaningless. Expectation setting is explicit in corporate environments, so let's look there. I have spent most of my life working in the software industry in Silicon Valley. Among many forms of insanity that have taken hold there is the idea that a company is either number one in its space, dominating all competitors by a wide margin, or it is a humiliating failure. For example, if you capture 30% of a multi-billion-dollar market, make a great product and profit, have passionately loyal and grateful customers who appreciate your making this not mainstream variation within your product category, and happy, loyal employees, but a competitor has 60% of the market, you are to be seen as a disappointing failure. This reflects ridiculously poor values and expectations, and is found almost universally. Imagine two work groups. Like our world-leading chess opponents above, these groups are well matched on knowledge, skills, and actual execution, and therefore produce similar results in similar circumstances. In Company A, expectations have been set that are in line with the actual track record of their work group. They generally plan new work on the basis of past performance, and attempt to improve techniques and net results in carefully considered incremental steps. In Company B, expectations are set based on the vision, short-sighted impatient gluttony, of the executive team and shareholders, significantly in excess of the actual track record of their work group or sensible expectations about incremental improvement. As a consequence, Company A will celebrate its workers and be filled with happy, engaged, motivated, productive employees. They will produce exceptional products at the same time that they gradually make improvements in production. Their creative and reliable product results will delight customers, which will convert into financial results that delight executives and shareholders. For some reason, most companies do not have the intelligence or patience for this mode of operation. Although claimed by all, it exists in very few. Company B, which represents almost all companies, will bemoan the fictitious but completely believed illusion that the staff lacks competence, or has a poor attitude, or is lazy, or is too stupid to understand what is at stake, and that they as a company are being unreasonably held hostage by a weak and intransient workforce. I don't know what that word is, Dad. Remember that this depressing and destructive conclusion at Company B is reached based on having achieved similar product results as Company A, which is celebrating its success. When this sort of planning, bad management, produces an illusory revenue gap, the vice president of sales will be fired. When this sort of planning, bad management, produces an illusory productivity gap, the vice president of engineering will be fired. When somebody tries to point out the non-illusory gap in management competency, they will be ignored or fired. Too stupid, that's me. No, it's not. First of all, the whole point is that it's not. It's a fictitious setup to begin with. Like, the difference between talking about this in terms of companies and talking about this in terms of chess players is that with chess, we kind of know that it doesn't mean anything, but it's fun, and it gives us more avenues to get invested in the game if we care about it. With companies, there is no silver lining to acting this way. There is no benefit to acting like the only way to win is to destroy everything else. No benefit at all, ever. Who you calling fictitious? You! I guess. Based on how you asked that. Marcus Aurelius. As this poor planning, bad management escalates, the most capable people tend to leave, and the least capable people inescapably become a larger percentage of the company. Self-serving politicking becomes the order of the day. Product innovation, quality, and production schedules all suffer. For some reason, most companies work in this mode of operation. Although denied by all, it actually exists in most. We were just talking last week, Pazer was talking about how Ubisoft was stupid to have let the pre-Ubi members of Sandfall Games made Clair Obscur. They lost that talent due to bad management, and they will never admit that at a corporate level. Maybe not even to themselves in private. Pretty fucked up. But that's how it is now. You've got talented, passionate people who are either extremely lucky or indie or unemployed. And you have a bunch of really stupid people holding the rest of the world hostage, thinking that they're the stupid ones. It's great. I love it here. The cascading problems that attend the bad management found in most companies is the topic of tens of thousands of books, and will not take up any further space in this one. With this illustration of large-scale, explicit expectation setting in mind, with this illustration of large-scale, explicit expectation setting in mind, there should be a hyphen there. Let's look at expectation setting in our own individual lives. There should be a hyphen there. As individuals, we get into trouble due to unrealistic expectations all the time, and most of our personal expectations are implicit, so they go unnoticed. Disney has saturated our prepubescent brains with prepubescent ideas about love that are surprisingly more powerful and durable than anyone should want to acknowledge. These surreal expectations persist into adulthood and are serious impediments to living in actual relationships with actual people. Despite an abundance of evidence to the contrary, we live life with such strong unconscious expectations of bliss that we respond to routine inconveniences with exasperation. We react to true pain and loss as if the universe has targeted us specifically, when we actually know it has just done to us what it is constantly doing to tens of thousands of others in the same moment. We implicitly expect life to be tranquil, even though few of us engage in any activities that promote tranquility. We spend most of our time engaged in activities that actively work against it. Even our leisure activities, meant to afford us recovery from stresses we cannot avoid, are dominated by the elective stresses of violent video games, the TV shows and movies that revolve around murder, deceit, war, and other intensely bad situations. It's true, none of us play Nier because it makes us feel really good. He's got a point. But catharsis. But catharsis, right? We don't control life, but we can and should master our expectations. Knowing that unrealistically high expectations are guaranteed to produce needless dukkha, and that too low expectations are guaranteed to miss positive opportunities and accomplishments, how should we navigate? How do we set expectations of ourselves and those around us that are aspirational while still being achievable? How do we calibrate them so that they are motivating and energizing, provide focus, and lead to actual gains rather than damaging both morale and net results? How do we manage our expectations about the very many things in life that influence us more than we influence them? We won't have much of a life if we are defeatist, or even just passive instead of directed and active, but no happiness will come from demanding things that will never be. Yeah, catharsis. Quote, "It is not life that causes suffering, but our expectation that life should be the way we want." Hodo Sawaki. Ideals make excellent direction-setting targets, but terrible measuring sticks. Shooting for the stars sets direction, but measuring how far you still are from the stars instead of how far you have risen from the ground is a recipe for needless and predictable grief and despair. I think that's an excellent point. I think that's a really good... We've all heard, like, shoot for the stars, and if you fail, you'll still be among the moon, or whatever it is. Or is it shoot for the moon and you'll still be among... Either way, it's well-intentioned, but it's not art. But I think it's something space. I think it's much more concrete to think of it in terms of try to get to the stars, but know that you won't, and measure how far you've gone instead of how far there is to go. Because if you were to travel as fast as human technology allows to the closest star for years, you'd still be closer to Earth. Doesn't mean you haven't accomplished anything. For example, nobody's fucking done that before. Still. So, that's something. We have to develop a keen sense of judgment to deal appropriately with wins we should enjoy, wins we should seek to surpass, misses we should let pass, misses we should learn from, and misses we should mitigate against. Wow, my dad's British now? Wow, it's bloody hard to be a human being or a company. It's bloody hard. Sorry. I just... Sometimes it just, like, comes into my head and I'm like, I wonder what that would feel like to say. Just comes out. It's bloody hard to be a human being or a company, so let's give a little grace with ourselves and with each other. Defining chaos. We must take time to celebrate the accomplishments we have done. Even if they're small at the moment, it can be nice motivation to keep us going. For sure. Like, I've been working on, like, goal setting with myself. I've gotten a little better recently at actually doing the things I tell myself I should and will do. And although it's at a small scale, you know, that you gotta start somewhere. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm very susceptible to feedback loops in both directions. If I get discouraged by something, I'm much more likely to be discouraged by the next discouraging thing. If I'm encouraged by something, I'm much more likely to be encouraged by the next encouraging thing. So I do what I can to line myself up for more encouragement consecutively than discouragement consecutively. There will be discouragement, but I just I prefer when discouragement is paced as opposed to free-flowing. Getting done any of the things I need to do is also a problem I have. Yeah, worse lately than a year ago. I'm sorry to hear that. It's rough out there. Also in here, right? Defining chaos. One could say that the opposite of expectations is chaos, not being able to predict or count on anything. More precisely, chaotic means something sensitive to imprecision in measurements of factors which we are aware, factors of which we are unaware, seemingly unimportant differences in known and unknown factors that have surprisingly large consequences, the butterfly effect, and interactions among all of these known and unknown factors. An illusion here is that some phenomena are ordered and others are chaotic. So-called ordered and chaotic phenomena are not categorically different. All that is different is our ability to understand things beyond a certain complexity threshold. After inventing calculus, primarily to explain planetary motion, Isaac Newton still could not come up with a method for computing the way three celestial bodies, such as the Sun, the Earth, and the Moon, would affect each other's orbits. Newton's calculus indicated that they would fall into chaos rather quickly, but they actually remained stable for eons. Unable to find a real answer, Newton took refuge in the religious impulse. He said that God must make periodic adjustments to the solar system to keep it from ruin. More complexity than we can fathom. Let's call it chaos. More mystery than we can tolerate. Let's ascribe that to God. Decades later, Pierre-Simon Laplace extended Newton's work. Laplace's extensions explain why such systems remain stable well beyond the duration that Newton's formulae predict. But it still does not tell us when any such system will finally show significant signs of decay. So we still have only a partial understanding, and we still call what lies beyond it chaos. That remains a comment about the limits of our understanding, not about the universe we fail to understand. Supposedly, Napoleon asked Laplace where God fit into his revision of Newton's work, and Laplace bettered Newton again by saying, "I have no need for the God hypothesis." The apparent reduction in astronomical chaos from Newton to Laplace illustrates that chaos is a comment on the limits of our understanding, rather than a description of the object of our attention. The cosmos did not change, only our ability to predict it changed. The cosmos did not become less chaotic. Our ability to describe and predict it increased. To a first-time billiards player, the movement of the balls on the table is chaotic. To an experienced player, it is ordered, but imperfectly controlled as a function of multiple skills and conditions. In objective reality, the movement of the balls is always exactly 100% predictable, assuming complete knowledge of every tiny bump in the table covering, the imperfections of each billiard ball, etc. Is it Laplace? My bad. From the perspective of individual humans, the degree of predictability on a pool table is variable, ranging from chaos to very reliable but not perfect. In objective reality, it's 100% rigidly deterministic, all the time, just not 100% observable by limited human beings. When we say something is chaotic, we are commenting on limits to our knowledge of the world we live in, not the world itself. We could predict the weather with great precision, days, weeks, decades, or millennia in advance if we could measure every relevant factor with infinite precision and model all of their interactions correctly. But we can't. The reasons we have to settle for approximate probabilities in weather prediction over even short intervals of time are: we do not have, and can never have, a catalog of every factor that goes into creating weather. It is impossible to achieve exact precision in measuring things in the real world. We do not have a formula that applies the right multipliers to seemingly tiny factors that end up making a big difference. We don't know how all the factors interact to produce a net outcome. I don't want you to gloss over that. Let's say, for example, that there is a certain hill in a certain neighborhood in San Francisco that is very steep and long. Depending on the weather itself, yes, the weather affects the weather, the traffic conditions, and when orders come in for various products, and the personal preferences of truck drivers, and when that bus stalled out in the middle of the street, and when that moving van took up all that space, the number of trucks going up that one hill on a given day, and the exhaust they release, varies quite a bit. These trucks release a lot of exhaust into the air, especially when chugging up a hill like this one. As we know, the balance of the gases in the atmosphere has an impact on weather. The varying traffic on this one hill in San Francisco is one of the factors you would have to take into account if you want to exactly predict the weather in Beijing. You think not? Well, think how hard it will be to prove that the variable emissions of the trucks on this hill have exactly zero impact on the weather. Okay, you say, so it's not zero, but it's negligible over just the week ahead, which is as much weather forecasting as most of us want. Well, if a negligible impact within a given window of time is okay, you are saying that you don't really aspire to have a perfectly accurate prediction of the weather, just one that's pretty good in a limited context. Now you see my point. When we are predicting the weather, we don't expect to factor in if a certain truck driver who happens to prefer a certain route went to work every day this week or stayed home sick on Tuesday. It's not practical to account for everything we know about. We can't even list everything that matters. We can't even list everything that matters, and we only need our predictions to be pretty good in a chosen context, not perfect in every conceivable context. Apply that to predicting human behavior. Incomplete catalog of factors? Check. Insufficient means of measuring known factors? Check. Not knowing how much impact may be had by seemingly tiny factors? Check. Not knowing how the many factors interact with each other to produce a net outcome? Check. Does that apply to the immensity of the universe? Check. Our best predictions, even about inanimate systems, are always approximations. That is, we have agreed in advance, because we have no choice, that sometimes we will be wrong. So why do we get so damned upset when we or someone else is wrong? We are or someone else is wrong. Because we forget that we live in a world of purpose-built, unrealistically static simplifications and illusions layered on top of incomplete and imperfect knowledge. Wait, I'm confused. Wait, is that a schwa? It is. Then why is that marked as stressed? Isn't that what that apostrophe means? Doesn't it mean that the first syllable is stressed? But it has a schwa in it? What? I need to learn IPA. Anyway. Dukkha largely arises from our attachment to illusions of permanence and certainty, our lack of humility, and our lack of compassion for self and others. Thus, the world is not under our control, but much of dukkha is. Aspire to control your illusions, humility, and compassion instead of aspiring to control things you cannot. Develop your humility, which is largely the same thing as developing your objective accuracy about reality, and you instantly and profoundly reduce suffering for yourself and those around you. Oh. So wait, so the mark means the following syllable is stressed? I need to learn IPA. Now that you know that, why would you not make this one of your highest priorities in life? The single most powerful thing you can do to reduce suffering is to get rid of expectations that are not grounded in reality and replace them with expectations that are. It is in your power to profoundly reduce suffering. Please stop reading this book and go think about that. Well, do we do what he says? Streamed 2 hours. Do we listen to your dad? I don't know. I try not to. Okay, you know what? Suffice it to say, I'll read that paragraph again, just so that it really hits, and then we'll go on a little longer before we call it a stream. Aspire to control your illusions, humility, and compassion instead of aspiring to control things you cannot. Develop your humility, which is largely the same thing as developing your objective accuracy about reality, and you instantly and profoundly reduce suffering for yourself and those around you. Now that you know that, why would you not make this one of your highest priorities in life? The single most powerful thing you can do to reduce suffering is to get rid of expectations that are not grounded in reality and replace them with expectations that are. It is in your power to profoundly reduce suffering. He does say, please stop reading this book. I'm gonna keep going. The next thing starts, I hope you really did go and think about specific ways you can replace ungrounded expectations with informed ones in a few high priority places in your life. Okay, fine. We have homework. We're gonna go out in the world. We're going to think about ways that we can make our expectations for the world a little more realistic, a little less rose-tinted, and can't ground me, yo. Just looking for ways that we can be a little more humble and realistic about what we expect for ourselves. Not because, ooh, this is an interesting parallel. My dad's dad was a very conservative person, not necessarily politically, but in terms of his values. He believed that if you do everything you're supposed to, good things will happen to you. And he discouraged my dad and his siblings from going into more creative fields because he didn't want them to be disappointed. So that is the extreme of this, and it's obviously not helpful. My dad's not saying expect things to go wrong because they will and fuck you. He's not saying to be a pessimist. He's just saying that when bad things happen, just know that they were gonna. Move on. It goes back to the reaching for the stars metaphor, right? You always aim for your ideals, but you never expect to reach them, and you never punish yourself or shame yourself for not reaching them. And when obstacles come up that keep you from going forward, yeah, do your best to overcome them. But sometimes you won't be able to, and that's okay. Like, hold yourself accountable. Try to do everything that's in your power. But don't take it out on yourself if it doesn't work out. Just know that sometimes it doesn't work out. That's okay. It sucks, but it's okay. It's gonna happen to all of us. We're not always going to get what we want, no matter how hard we work for it. And that's not necessarily sad or depressing. It's just that if we ignore that, we will eventually be sad or depressed. So let's just remember that. I wasn't planning to end stream for another like half hour, but my dad really wants us to stop reading this book and just think about ways to healthify our expectations and reduce future suffering for ourselves, so I vote we do that. I like to think I'm good at keeping my goalpost moving. I get in funks, but at least I didn't give up, even if the road was a little too twisty and bumpy. Yeah, my I don't think my goalposts do move, but obviously my my objectives on the way move, and if I do ever reach my goalpost, then it will move. Because humans never stagnate. Anybody who thinks that... Like, anybody who thinks, once I X, I will finally be happy, they're wrong. I know, not from experience, but from seeing it happen to people. I have never once heard somebody say that, and then get that thing, and then be happy. It's the journey, man, not the destination. So my destination is a better journey. How about that? My goal for years has been to have a life where I'm able to follow my creative impulses without fear for financial consequence. And I'm not there yet. But once I do get there, I will move the goalpost. Because at that point, that point, a lot of freedom. And I can kind of do whatever I want. So I'll think about it again then. Stagnation hardly seems happy, right? Who wants to do the same thing every day? Fortunately, it's not an option. You can't. Eventually, it's gonna stop working. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you very much for streaming with me. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys tune in to hear me read from my dad's book, and I know it means a lot to him too. We're actually most of the way through at this point. Let's see, where did we stop? It stopped on page 280. Look how far we are through the book. Pretty far through the book. I thought it was going to take us like over a year to read this, but nope. See you next week, indeed. I like being read to. It's nice, right? I like story time. I wish there was more story time and, like, not audiobooks, story time. Really, the only thing I can find is ASMR, where sometimes reading is included. But I want story time. I like story time stream. Speedy reader, that's not me. That's when you got the ad. That's funny. Alright, so next week we will return to Silksong. That reminds me, I have to play Silksong, like, before then, so that I actually have a chance of making some good progress. I definitely want to continue playing Silksong on stream, because I know that there's going to be stuff that happens in the story that rocks my world, and I want to experience that with you guys. But I might start playing it a little more off-stream, just so that I stay in practice and don't just spend every stream doing the same thing for an hour and a half. Alright. Saturday, we will do a watch party. We missed the last two because of various things in my life, but Saturday, we will begin Ilya, our other mod, besides Pedro. He's been very into Uma Musume recently, and he's not afraid to tell you. And he says that there's like an anime, I don't remember if it's like a mini-series or an OVA or something. There was something that he said is relatively short and great. So we're gonna check it out. I expect it to be very wholesome and very saccharine sweet. That is the horse girl thing. In fact, Uma Musume means horse girl. Now you know. I'm serious, that's what it means. Cool! Yeah, I know, it's exactly your style, Sheehan. It's exactly the kind of show you love. Well, that's all I got. You guys take care of yourselves. Stay zen. Think about how you can make your life easier for yourself. And get ready for Horse Girls. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to each other. I will see you later. Bye-bye!